Speaker.
House resumes and debate continues. Yes, I recognize the parliamentary representative for the Portsmouth constituency. Yes, Honorable Wenham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permission to refer to my notes during my deliberation.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I was here a little more than 5 months ago, and I pledged my support to education at all levels: early childhood, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Mr. Speaker, I am here again in the House and happy to have the attention of my colleagues on the government side and the opposition, including, Mr. Speaker, all the citizens of the Commonwealth, both here and abroad, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, my constituents. And just in case, Mr. Speaker, you wonder, it is the Portsmouth constituency. Tribute to the late Honorable Michael Mike Douglas and Honorable Roosevelt Rosie Douglas, and salute to His Excellency Ian Douglas, and His Excellency Emmanuel Nanton, both giants of the political landscape of Dominica. And Mr. Speaker, our beloved Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerry. Mr. Speaker, we have to recognize our people. We didn't just get here. Greetings. Greetings. Greetings, Mr. Speaker, from the people of the Portsmouth constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to rise in support of the proposed budget as outlined by the Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre. A ministry's motto of excellence, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education is eager to receive high pass rates in implementing its projects, programs, and activities, Mr. Speaker. Work is ongoing, and I want to see 100% pass as we work into this fiscal year and beyond, Mr. Speaker. The project areas, Mr. Speaker, are construction of new schools, rehabilitation of existing school structures, and enhancing school safety net, and the enhancing school safety net programs, Mr. Speaker. And while I speak to these programs, the construction of new schools, we have to be grateful, as I alluded to earlier, and demonstrated, Mr. Speaker, to the People's Republic of China. Thanks to them, we're working towards the construction of our new schools: the Tibo Primary in the Vickers constituency, the Siniku Primary in the Salibia constituency, Kalibishi Primary in the Pebush constituency, Tetmon Primary in the Granby constituency, Belbishope Primary, Mr. Speaker, in the Pititzavan constituency, and our School of Excellence in the Rosa North constituency, Mr. Speaker, the Goodwill Secondary School, the Lone Secondary School in the construction phase, and also to mention, thanks to the Maria Holder Memorial Trust, for the early childhood facility at Baroness Scotland Primary in the Vickers constituency. And we have, Mr. Speaker, more than 30 million, I am sure, by the time the project is ended, going into just construction. As we look to rehabilitate our existing structures, we have the Will Strathmore Stephen in the Marigot constituency that is already commissioned. The Granby Primary, it speaks for itself in terms of the constituency. And those works, they are ongoing, Mr. Speaker. We also have the Dominica Grammar School, funded by the Montreal Management Consultants Establishment. We know them as MMCE. We say thanks to them as well. And the Maho Primary, that too is work ongoing, Mr. Speaker. As we look to enhance the school safety net programs, we say thanks to UNICEF and the GPE and other international funding partners, Mr. Speaker, for the Each One Teach One, as we have 12 schools, Mr. Speaker, that will be beneficiaries of this project, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to place on record a heartfelt thank you to all the funding agencies, governments, and partners who confidently come to our aid and assistance to help build our country. In addition to funding, I would like to also thank the contractors, both foreign and local, who day in and day out, in sun or rain, go out in the elements of nature, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that these projects are started, well managed, and completed successfully. Allow me to mention, without fear of contradiction, again, the Montreal Management Consultants Establishment, MMCE, who has been one of our most important partners over the past years and continues to build with us. Mr. Speaker, I want to go back to the school safety net programs that the government of Dominica has and the amount that is spent through the Education Trust Fund. I know my colleague, Minister of Education, will expound further, I am sure. But this program, Mr. Speaker, school registration, just to mention a few of the amounts spent, over 300,000 in school registration. This is assistance, Mr. Speaker, to our students. Payment of school transfer grants for primary to secondary, 3 million and counting. Payment to bus drivers, over 500,000, Mr. Speaker. And the school feeding program, Mr. Speaker, over 100,000. Mr. Speaker, the school feeding program caters for some 39 primary schools, which would amount to about 2,000 students, and in the secondary schools, 5, about 162 students. Mr. Speaker, in total, 44 schools, 2,162 students would receive lunches and breakfast. Mr. Speaker, they benefit from that through a collaboration, and I want to say that word again, collaboration, by the Ministries of Education, Agriculture, and the Environmental Health Department. We also have trained cooks, and they go through a training program annually, Mr. Speaker. That is something to boast about as well, and I'm proud to do that. And one might say, but why is she referring to that, or why is the Ministry of Education referring to that? What it translates to, Mr. Speaker, is that both parents and students are more at ease. The students are now more focused, knowing that they have a healthy, warm meal, and it means to Mr. Speaker that more effort is placed on content, and students' retention increased, thus resulting in more efficient, productive, and even industrious students, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party-led government is investing in infrastructure and its people, its greatest asset, the human resource. And it's doing so by enhancing learning environments for better functionality. all of this money, Mr. Speaker, spent and spending, Mr. Speaker, that is to empower, train, and build capacity for a more productive workforce. Education reform, Mr. Speaker. Education reform is already in the budget, and the human resource team is already at work. We are going to speak with the principals, the teachers, the students, parents, education partners, businesses, and we're going to evaluate the education system on post-primary training to measure employability and its impact on national economic and human resource development, Mr. Speaker. We are going to see how government investing so much money in education translates to better and more productive human capital. In short, a well-trained workforce, Mr. Speaker. All that money spending in education, safe environments, development of skill sets, productive behaviors equals to an equipped and ready workforce, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party-led government, Katwavai, the Labour Party-led government is working. Mr. Speaker, and not to shame the UWP, now independent, but the Dominican Labour Party-led government, Kape Keshoi Tupatu. The government is working everywhere, Mr. Speaker. And that is why I made sure to mention the constituencies when I mentioned the projects. Mr. Speaker, now to the Portsmouth constituency and its slice of the pie. But just before that, Mr. Speaker, I want to pay homage to two decorated soldiers. Two decorated soldiers, Mr. Speaker, of the Dominican Labour Party. My boys, Mr. Speaker. Old chap, English Elijah Peter, and Rompel, Vivian Remy. May their souls rest in peace. Now, Mr. Speaker, back to the pie. Mr. Speaker, I examined the pie well. Most of us here like dessert, so you know I had to watch it twice. Mr. Speaker, it is cut into 21 pieces, and we get more than half of that, Mr. Speaker, in this fiscal year. And when I say we, I refer to the Portsmouth constituency. Housing, Mr. Speaker, continues to be one of the most critical areas for the constituency, especially since the passage of Hurricane Maria. Since I came into office, I have seen 6 new homes built, roofs renovated, and Mr. Speaker, some constituents have received other forms of housing assistance. Housing remains a top priority for our constituents. That being said, let me mention the completion and commissioning of Judgetown Housing Complex in Glanville, thanks to the government of Dominica and MMC, and the Cotton Hill Housing Complex, thanks to the government of Dominica again and MMC. Mr. Speaker, these past few months have been good, and good for 29 new employees who have been approved for the National Employment Program, the NEP, Mr. Speaker. Jobs, Mr. Speaker, in elderly care, beautification, small business, and a few other areas. People are working, Mr. Speaker. And if this is not a good sign, then I don't know what else could be. I also want to bring Also wanting to bring in the point of the 50 solar lights. Those were approved, Mr. Speaker, for the Portsmouth constituency and awaiting installation. Mr. Speaker, how is our government not serious about agriculture when it wants to invest millions in the sector, Mr. Speaker? I'm not sure. My colleague Minister of Agriculture, he can confirm the exact figures. And agriculture, Mr. Speaker, fisheries, the blue and green economy, this is one of the three major sectors highlighted in the budget. Mr. Speaker, at this point, the Ministry of Agriculture deserves a round of applause. And this applause is for the revamping of the National Youth in Agriculture program. And I want to encourage, Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage them and encourage our young farmers to become engaged, and for some of them to be re-engaged in food production. The Tissue Culture Laboratory in 1 Mile is another great compliment, not only for research, Mr. Speaker, but for the creation of jobs for our people. Sonny, our Chinese counterpart at 1 Mile, and the team are doing great work at that site, Mr. Speaker. And we have met and spoken briefly, but it is my intention to make a formal visit there to understand and also to highlight the project operations. The blue and green economy, Mr. Speaker, it opens a world of possibilities for this island state of ours. As vast as the ocean is, so too the opportunities from the creation of a sperm whale protected area and revenue from visits with swimming with our sperm whales, Mr. Speaker. Portsmouth identified for one of the reserves or the sanctuaries. And like as if that is not enough, Mr. Speaker, I almost do not want to say it, but I have to. The long-awaited for marina. My colleague, Minister here, I am sure, will agree. And need I say more, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, all I can tell you about that marina is more jobs, Mr. Speaker. And we're inviting all of Dominica, once that project begins, to come to Portsmouth. And there's a term I heard throughout the debate, Mr. Speaker. I don't really want to use it. Côtoyer, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in sense. And
You want to?
in sense,
Oh,
Mr.
okay,
Speaker.
okay.
And I'll borrow a word from my colleague's list, Mr. Speaker, perplexed. For sure. And, Mr. Speaker, I have some news, you know. I have some news. I have to show it on this side especially. I have some news from Portsmouth. Mr. Speaker, Portsmouth is not dead. We are alive and we kick in. And I invite the opposition. Now, it's a funny thing for me to say, right? Especially when you look at one particular member of the opposition. But I'm inviting the opposition to come and enjoy and come and experience La Place Heritage and 767 exotic Rasta bread and the beer garden at Marford's house. And I will include the Water's Edge for great dining, Mr. Speaker. The Portsmouth Market, Mr. Speaker, that has a life of its own. From Wednesday, the place is bustling. We have more than 120 vendors at the market, and all of them from the northern constituencies. The fisheries complex is open every day. And from Sunday to Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, just come down Longhouse at our port you'll see life. So I'm not sure where that idea, that fictional, I should say, idea comes that Portsmouth is dead. Dead where? Mr. Speaker, when the boys rolling on their bikes, they must come to Portsmouth. They must. And when they come to the Purple Turtle Beach area, Mr. Speaker. I say passion, Mr. Speaker, passion. I say me de parler. Miss, you know, Mr. Speaker. And the Bellon Beach spot, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes I go there and I can't even get a place to park. There's so many bikes, so many vehicles. And again, my colleague minister here, Honorable Roy, can attest to those things. Right? National football matches being played at the Benjamin Park, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you come there tomorrow, I hope you can find a place to play one of your favorite sports. Or you may just have to join either a cricket team there already, or the football, or the rounders. Right, Mr. Speaker, or run some track. And Mr. Speaker, while all of that is happening, pizza selling, tonight you must find some grilled fish on the Benjamin's back, Mr. Speaker.
10 more minutes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that reminder. And Mr. Speaker, silence is a funny thing and it can be misinterpreted. But let me just explain Portsmouth's silence. It is that we are at work. When we work, but when we play hard. That's right. And Mr. Speaker, all of this ties, if we go to the ice cream part now, we have the karaoke with the ice cream. So we can leave it there for now. So Mr. Speaker, all of this ties into improvements in our tourism sector with site enhancement and the buying into the community tourism vibes by our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's go to the field of play. The Portsmouth constituency is no stranger to sports and have produced top sportsmen and women over the years. To date, we can boast of Denick Luke. Recently, he had a bronze medal, Mr. Speaker, in the NACAC Championships, and he's now the national record holder in the men's 800 meters, Mr. Speaker. To foster and prepare our athletes for even better results, the government, Mr. Speaker, has started work on the tennis and netball courts. That project is over $300,000, Mr. Speaker, and this is just the beginning. Mr. Speaker, one of the most anticipated projects for Portsmouth, for the North even, is the administrative building. Mr. Speaker, more than $35 million is expected to be spent on this building in Portsmouth, but one that will serve the North. Mr. Speaker, some do not understand how that converts to savings for a family, Mr. Speaker, and revenue for a number of small businesses in the constituency. Mr. Speaker, they do not have to pay a bus to come down into Roseau for one document, Mr. Speaker. I will now move, Mr. Speaker, to support to small and medium-sized enterprises. The small businesses, Mr. Speaker. Over 24 million in support to our small businesses. And if no one else does, Mr. Speaker, the Portsmouth constituency understands well what my colleague, the Minister of Finance, means when he says that Dominica is run by small businesses. Mr. Speaker, we take our small businesses so seriously that a series of small business forums were held, which resulted, Mr. Speaker, in the setup of a small business desk in the Portsmouth constituency's office to provide assistance to those intending or already operating a small business and want to develop it further. Gratitude must be given to Mr. Philip Rowe and the Dominica Youth Business Trust, and to Mr. Danny Joseph and the Small Business Unit. Mr. Speaker, as I wrap up, I would like to mention that I have met with Operations Manager, Mr. Ross Balboni, and the President, Mr. Carrie James of the American Canadian School of Medicine, formerly Ross University. And I am very pleased with the work that have started and continues for September 2023. September 2023 opening. It is my dream to see this university back to its former glory where business was booming for landlords, restaurants, taxis. The signs are up, the flags are up, the paint has changed, and I see power washing happening daily, Mr. Speaker. I want to reaffirm my commitment to the American Canadian School of Medicine, who have already employed 9 locals directly and 11 outsourced indirect employments. And Mr. Speaker, to say congratulations to Secret Bay, who, as recent as June, opened up new villas employing 122 people from the constituency and the neighboring, and is poised to open up 4 more villas by the year's end, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I love the sound of that. Jobs, 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 Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thanks to my people in the Portsmouth constituency. Thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister for his visionary leadership. Mr. Speaker, the government is focused. It's focused on its people and delivering in love, Mr. Speaker. May God bless us all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, I recognize the Honorable Minister, Parliamentary Representative for the
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Mabrika, I can translate that. That means basically hello in Kalinago language. So I could translate that for sure. Mabrika to the fellow parliamentarians here, and especially to Prime Minister Honorable Jules Skerrit. And congratulations is due to Honorable Dr. McIntyre, and as I support this budget presented this year. We will definitely continue to work during the course of 2023-2024 to do the work we started off in 2019 as a young parliamentarian. It's very clear that we achieved a lot in the last financial year, and so I'm happy to be given the opportunity to share on some of the achievements and also to share on the way forward for the Salbe constituency and also for the ministry I am entrusted with, the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Calling Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. So, Mr. Speaker, we have spent a significant amount of resources on human capacity development and also on infrastructural development. So there's no doubt that our investments in the people of Dominica remains crucial. And for sure, it will affect individual lives, it will affect the society, and it will also affect what happens at the economic level. We have spent some of the money on primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and the Salibia constituency has benefited from those initiatives. We continue to support all our students, and I refer to providing school books, uniforms, transportation, and even sustenance at the school level. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that our students in the Salibia constituency have been very grateful. They were so grateful that this year we had some major achievements from that space. Students from the Salibia constituency have been served by the Northeast Comprehensive School and the Castle Secondary School, and we had valedictorians and top achievers at those schools. So it is clear that we have developed this human capacity. Mr. Speaker, we also continue to receive scholarships for international studies. As we speak, 2 students are getting ready to go to China in the new academic year. We've done pretty well also at the grade 6 national assessment exams with a number of bursaries and a number of scholarships. So we are happy that we're making the intervention in education. And I'm hoping that the students will come out of the Dominica State College would put the support behind the Dominica Labour Party, because we have created this atmosphere that they can actually achieve. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work as a government with the youth and community leaders. And so many people of the Salbe constituency have received training in various skills. For example, in the youth skill training program at the Castlebrus Youth Center, includes computer literacy, auto mechanics, boat building, carpentry. We also benefited a lot from the adult education programs, and I speak to things like electrical wiring, tiling, cosmetology, construction, etc. Our local leaders across the Salbe constituency have also benefited from training in disaster risk management. We have been able to raise and source funding from the Kenyan government through the CDB, and we're pushing ahead to develop a multi-purpose emergency shelter, and the softer part of the project involves training the community to respond. We have conducted ham radio training with the folks at the ODM, and we have also done a lot of training in financial management, because we do have an intervention by the government last year to deal with the peculiar land tenure system and the access to finance within the Kalinago territory. So we do have a Kalinago Development Fund, and the Aid Bank, we have been working with constituents to ensure that we become more financially savvy. Mr. Speaker, on the softer part of it, we've also been working with UNICEF and through the Child Abuse Prevention Unit to look at the parenting programs. Within the last cycle, in the last financial year, I should say, we brought to this very parliament bills as it relates to family law, family bills. And so we're taking charge. We are preparing in the event so we want to safeguard against some of the issues that may arise. We have also published two books that speaks to a lot of the Kalinago heritage and how Dominica itself is built on the foundation of Kalinago heritage. We have done that. And this has been done through the Indian government and through the work of the Kalinago Council and good folks at the UNDP. Within the Salbe constituency, Mr. Speaker, we also benefit from all of the other social safety nets, 65 years and over, the non-contributory pensioners, and all of those other programs. But more specifically, Mr. Speaker, part of the ministry involves a department that speaks directly to the folks from Wakama to Pegwa. That is the general area between Castlebrus and the Marigot constituency. That where we have a residential unit of people who share the common Kalinago heritage. And we've been able, for the most part, to deal with the socio-economic condition of those people. And this is very important because before 2000, before Labour, and before Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerry, there was little done. And I must commend the Prime Minister for his leadership in ensuring that this little part, this 2% of the land mass can get benefits out of the system. So in doing all of this, Mr. Speaker, we've been collaborating with a number of ministries and departments. We have been working to increase the people of the Salbe constituency's awareness to all of the government programs, and so they can easily access all of the government services and information. Critical in the new financial year, we will look at continuing the Kalinago Development Fund. We'll also continue to the physical construction of the emergency shelter, and we also look at the social behavior and the social change within the Salbe constituency. Mr. Speaker, I must say that the Kalinago Development Fund has developed some traction over the past year. A number of more than 25 folks have been granted loans, and they are taking on responsibilities. They are now feeling a bigger part of the Dominica society by taking own risk in their own businesses. And I just want to encourage encourage folks that that we need to access those loans and ensure that we build our socioeconomic condition. Mr. Speaker, $1 million, $1 million EC dollars was committed to that particular project in the last financial year. And also it is clearly articulated in this new budget this year to give access to the people of the Kalinago community. And it has been given at a very reasonable rate, Mr. Speaker. We speak to 2% on a reducing balance. Mr. Speaker, the emergency shelter is a response from our entire move. We had a very ambitious, we do have a very ambitious goal to become the first climate resilient country. And in responding to the effects of Hurricane Maria, we have gone around to build regional shelters. But we realize that the Kalinago space is cut off between the Pegua and the river and the Casablanca River. It may be difficult to access the established unit in Casablanca. So within the Kalinago space, we are doing our own shelter to ensure that we are able to secure the folks of the Salbert constituency. All of these soft works have been done, as I said. We have done the surveys, we have identified the lands, we have secured the lands. All of the geological tests have been done, all of the assessments have been done, and we are moving ahead. The final designs have been done on the building, and we're progressing to do so, to have physical work done before the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, this project has been cut up into a number of phases. And the physical structure is the last phase. Because we realize that if we do not prepare folks within the community with the skills to manage and to maintain, we may have difficulties at the end when a physical structure is built. So we have done sharing with the Kalinago Council, what we call the hamlet committees, because the Kalinago territory and Atkinson, collectively we have 10 different hamlets, and these folks are being trained to ensure that they can manage these facilities on their own. Mr. Speaker, a softer part, and my colleague Minister from La Plaine, the member for La Plaine, spoke about child protection and all of these issues that affect people at the community level. And so working with the ministry, we were able to do a parenting program, and we expended a significant amount of money in that project to ensure that people across the board are able to deal with the issues of growing a family and handling incidents of children's attitude towards their own development. So we have done that. We covered community leaders consultations. We had a conversation with farmers as relates to parenting, teachers within the system. We had programs in every community across the constituency. So we're happy for this, and what we have found out, Mr. Speaker, is that we have acquired a lot of relevant information. Some things we thought were not so important. We have been able to create the data. We have learned new parenting strategies. We have formed supporting networks between the hamlets, and so this, Mr. Speaker, has been a success. Over the past 3 months, more than 60 people have been trained, and we have a balance of men and women in there, and we're able to ensure that the folks at the Social Welfare Division are able to do the work within that space. Mr. Speaker, we got a lot of feedback from this program, and we're hoping that this sort of projects will carry on through other constituencies across the country. Mr. Speaker, within the ministry, we have a set targets that we have identified, and they're captured very nicely in this budget under the PSIP, the Public Sector Investment Program. And under the environmental pillar, we do have a massive project in what we call the Green Climate Fund Enhanced Direct Access Project. And this is about $17.1 million that is going to be implemented by the ministry. Now, so while we work towards becoming a climate resilient country, we realize that we have to also gain and have access to sustainable financing. And so this money comes out of the Green Climate Fund, and the very name itself explains it's an enhanced direct access where community groups, government institutions can access monies to create their own sustainable development projects. I am grateful to the cabinet colleagues who are here, who approved and gave the thumbs up to allow the ministry to become an accredited ministry under the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund. And the progress, it's a long process. It's a tedious, long process, but hard work, I think, is going to be very important. And we will pull through to ensure that we are able to lead even at the region, in the region with our projects. At the ministry here, we've also begun the process for the Adaptation Fund to get the readiness package grant. And we're speaking to over $407,000 to strengthen the capacity within the ministry. Within the EDA, with the $17.1 million, it is spread across the PSIP projects. And within the PSIP projects, we have 3 partners. First, we'll be strengthening national forest and watershed resilience. And so we're basically reestablishing the forest lost after Hurricane Maria. And this project is being facilitated by Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division. And it will be to the tune of over $700,000. The second component speaks to drainage and restoring roads around the Point Michel and Soufriere area. And we're speaking to more than $2.2 million, where we reestablish a 5-kilometer of drains and clean up the drains and build more than 6 culverts, catch pits and more than 550 meters of slipper drains and cover drains. So we're doing that in the southern part of the island. Mr. Speaker, the food project is a project we're doing, and this project initially is done with Public Works Division, and the food project we're working with the Ministry of Agriculture. And that's a very crucial project because it ties in nicely with what Comrade Rui spoke to last evening and how we can develop a better and more sustainable agricultural sector. So we'll speak to about $2.7 million that will help the division of agriculture. What it is going to do is going to mainstream disaster risk management within the agriculture sector. So what the project will do, Mr. Speaker, it will help to reduce the impacts of natural disasters, improve our disaster preparedness, and have an integrated plan for dealing with the agricultural sector and planning for harsh weather conditions. Mr. Speaker, we'll also assist farmers in increasing their resilience to climate change. So we will look at soil nutrition. We will look at the soil degradation and also erosion. Mr. Speaker, over $2.4 million has been allocated for component 3 of the project. And this is a very, very important one because it deals directly with communities. Mr. Speaker, we are implementing this priority project with the Jeff Small Grants Program, and we do have a number of what we call grantees across the Dominican landscape. So for instance, we have in the southeast in La Plaine, we're going to upgrade the multipurpose courtier hall. We're talking about $282,000. In the Atkinson area, we will renovate the Atkinson Community Center to the tune of more than $295,000. In Salisbury, we'll be doing the First Baptist Church and Gospel Hall, and we're speaking to more than $400,000. In Monrachet, we'll work with retrofitting the Monrachet Resource Center and Shelter, and we're talking about more than $456,000. We'll head down to also in the St. Peter's Cooperative. I believe it's in Bioche. We will spend there installing hybrid solar photovoltaic systems and backup water storage in the Bioche Fisheries Multipurpose Complex. And we're speaking to more than $300,000. We're going into the valley and we're looking at the Girardel Eggleston Consumer Cooperative. They want to rehabilitate the community center, and so we'll spend more than $240,000. So as we speak, Mr. Speaker, all of the organizations have received their first disbursements. So they have received larger shares. So they have monies on their accounts. They're ready to roll, as we say. And we have disbursed more than $13,000 to get those community groups ready to do their own projects. Because we really understand, Mr. Speaker, that's important for community groups and civil society agencies to be part and parcel of the development of our country. The last component, Mr. Speaker, is one that will directly affect public servants. And we are looking at the critical issue of housing. And so about $4.8 million is allocated to be spent with the government housing loans board. What we do is to provide monies to folks under that program, following the laws that exist, at a 2% rate, where public servants can access monies to ensure they can rebuild their homes and build homes that are resilient. So, Mr. Speaker, this project stems out of our response to the effects of Hurricane Maria and the Prime Minister's vision to become the first climate resilient country. Mr. Speaker, some months ago, or some years ago, we signed onto a convention, it's the Montreal Protocol. We signed on that, and you're very much aware of it, Mr. Speaker. And so we're looking at substances that affect the ozone, and so what they call the ozone depleting substances. And so we have an established agreement. It's in the law. It's actually highlighted in the revised laws of 2017. And as a signatory to this protocol, we have commitments to keep. And so, Mr. Speaker, we have signed a number of small-scale agreements. And we have done so with the United Nations Environmental Programme. And in so doing, we're hoping that we can review all our ozone legislation. We want to develop capacity within the air conditioning sector. We want to raise public awareness to all of these agreements and protocols. And we will be training people across the board to deal with this. And one of the key areas we'll be targeting is the customs brokers and people who are technicians to be able to understand this. So within this budget year cycle, Mr. Speaker, we'll be expending more than $226,000 to ensure that we build capacity, and also to phase out the use of those products. We will spend more than $133,000. So, Mr. Speaker, during the last financial year, we engaged a number of consultants who assisted us in that process, and we're also using local and regional consultants to assist us. So, Mr. Speaker, we'll ensure that we train our customs officers, as I said, and also our what we call our RAC technicians, and we'll speak to more than $60,000 in that training. We'll continue to review our laws. And so, Mr. Speaker, in a nutshell, we will spend more than a $250,000 to ensure that we keep our commitments with the Montreal Protocol. Mr. Speaker, a key element of a key part of our ministry is the Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division. We have done a lot of work as it relates to keeping nature intact, and we have been working to look at the models for smart forest products. We have been also looking at, we developed a business plan for the Cabot National Park. We're also working with the UNEP project to advance the conservation of all of those wonderful areas. Mr. Speaker, as far as the work program of the Forestry and Wildlife Division goes, we do have projects under the PSIP, which will speak to strengthen our national forest resource, and also to reforest areas across the country. Mr. Speaker, as we discuss here, there are more than 7 districts across the country. We have produced more than 300,000 plants, and community groups and schools, etc., have been able to access those plants. And as we speak, Mr. Speaker, we are mobilizing and distributing plants in the northern, central, eastern, and southern forest ranges. We do so through village councils, community organizations, churches, private landowners, etc. Mr. Speaker, agroforestry is part of this project, and so we are ensuring that there's a national effort to restore our forests. And we also speak, Mr. Speaker, to abandoned farmlands, watershed areas, and along the highways. As we speak, there are more than 20 workers dealing with those across the 4 forest ranges, and we're working with a regional partner called the PSILM. It's the Partnership Initiative for Sustainable Land Management, and we are clearing and planting in Debwash, in Loda, Fortune, Bells, Simpa, Monjon, Syndicate, Soufriere. Other areas marked under this project include Laron, Tronto, Carbridge, Starrow, Concord, Penrise, Hatton Garden. And all of those areas will be able to restore the watershed areas. And we also speak, Mr. Speaker, to Batali, Laplane, and the Cooley Beach Tree watershed areas. So this financial year, the monies allocated in the budget will go towards implementing those projects. And what is interesting, Mr. Speaker, is that these sort of projects, the impact is long-term. And so within the next 10 years, you will see those things are rising and the forest being restored. But what it's doing for us internationally is highlighting a number of things for us internationally. And that's why we are taken on seriously as a country, because they directly affect the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, as we say locally. So one, it will deal with poverty, because these products continue to give employment to people. They will target communities across the spectrum of the Dominican space. It will also, so that's SDG 1 actually. SDG 2, it will look at zero hunger, because with agroforestry, with new plants, with the fruit orchards being set up to mitigate against crop depredation, we will have some zero hunger. It also affects SDG 5 and 13. 5 is gender equality, because within the projects we ensure that we employ males and females, and we ensure that there's equity along that line. The SDG 13, Mr. Speaker, speaks about climate action. So we have to, on our own as a country, take some action. We can't just sit back and say, oh, we have a nature island and it's so nice and pretty, and do nothing about it. And so SDG 14 deals with that. And we will support all of our partners. And in the long run, we will look at reforesting more than 91 acres of land. And we're talking about 40,000 more fruits and forest species. Mr. Speaker, we have, through the conventions, have to deal with our nationally determined contributions. We call it the NDCs, which is basically our commitment to reducing greenhouse emissions and while improving food and water security. And we have done that. It's online on the UNFCCC's website. We have produced our NDCs, and we are on the right track, and we have been given good commendations for this. After Hurricane Maria in 2017, Mr. Speaker, we set up a National Resilience Development Strategy. We like to call it the NRDS, and we're in line with all of this. Within the ministry, we deal with the forestry, but we're also dealing with marine life and also water resources. And we capture that also in the estimates under the capital projects called rehabilitation of the trails and facilities at ecotourism sites, and also managed by the National Parks Unit or the Forestry Division. Mr. Speaker, we have been rehabilitating all of our trails as we speak. All of the trails except the segment 5 in Casabus, where the trough system come through, they're intact, so you can walk the trails. We have dealt with Middleham Falls, the Shimelita, the Syndicate Nature Trail. We have dealt with the Carbets National Park, Bury Lake, and Freshwater Lake. And Mr. Speaker, I must say kudos to the staff at Forestry, because I actually walked that stuff with them. And the last time the Boiling Lake was dried out, I was on a research mission, Mr. Henderson, Dr. Henderson, to see. I actually went down to the lake myself and do some tests. So I take my Eisenball, my P's, and I walk. And I walk to make sure that the staff do what they do. While we speak about things in the budget that affects revenue stream, we realize that we have a unique product in Dominica, but for the most part, we are not able to capture the revenue in a proper way. And so we have been targeting tourist sites, eco sites. And I'm in discussion with my colleague here, Minister, to see how we can better get returns from accessing it, because most of those areas are just too free for people. When we travel ourselves overseas, we pay tolls, we pay taxes, we pay fees. Some of those fees are even put into the tickets we buy. And so we're going to have to explore this, because this is a major revenue stream that we can pull out. In the in the last financial year, we've been able to pull out more than $1.1 million. Between July 2022 and May 2023, over $1.1 million was collected in user fees to our various sites. And so just imagine if we can tighten up on this, how much money we can bring into the coffers of the government. We've been working a lot with the GEF, the Global Environment Fund, and sometimes these agencies appear to be operating solo, but they're not. Actually, GEF receives a lot of money from the government, and they implement government's project on our behalf. We have more in excess of $9.5 million for projects during the next 5 years, and we're speaking to visitor facilities, hiking trails, ecotourism sites upgrade. We want to enhance the botanical gardens. We are finalizing a ticketing system, an e-ticketing system for all of our sites across the country. So I'm happy for this. We do have an endangered species on Dominica, in the amphibian, the mountain chicken. Mr. Speaker, it's our national dish, but it is endangered. So at the division, we've been working on that. And we're conducting a lot of research. We also have a mountain chicken recovery program that we've invested some monies in, and we have a lot of partners who are working with us. Mr. Speaker, we have completed our Waitikobuli National Trail audit, so we know exactly what we want to do and how we're going to move forward. And these have affected a number of livelihoods. We have recommendations from our consultants, and we have been working with the Agricultural Division to ensure that the monies under the World Bank are utilized in the best ways to ensure that we have our national trail up and running. Mr. Speaker, we realize that the work has to continue in all of the research that we do in our space. We continue our conservation practices, which includes the planting, reforestation.
30 more minutes.
All of this, and Mr. Speaker, thank you. And we're also looking at lumber production as another major stream, because after Hurricane Maria, a number of trees were knocked down, and we have been able to harvest some of them using local lumberjacks. But some of them are inaccessible. But we are looking forward to exploit that in a better way. So we're not just planting random trees, but we're planting trees that we can harvest in the next 10, 15 years to ensure that we can add some value to the revenue. Mr. Speaker, during the upcoming year, we will continue all of the work at the industries. We'll continue the new forest setup. We will look at specific species, however. We'll look at blue maho, mahogany, gombe, the carapit, the balata, and all of those other common species that we can use for wood, blue maho, etc. We will also keep on restoring the riverbanks and ensure that we safeguard our mangroves, etc. We've been doing a lot of work, not only with paid staff, but also we've been training folks under the NEP in forestry, good practices, etc. So we've been in capacity. We work a lot with, Mr. Speaker, with the 4-H clubs, church groups, and those folks moving forward. We'll upgrade all of the sites. We'll work in National Trail. We'll also continue salvaging all of the material from the forest. Because we do have operations in Glogombe, in Simpa, in Loda, and we also have machinery at our forestry department's site in Pogasi to do shingles. So we have a massive operation that can bring some more value in the forestry department. Mr. Speaker, the NEP program is with us at the ministry. It remains what they call a flagship of the Dominican Labour Party. It's a flagship. There are many good stories about this program. Many good stories. In December this year, like it was highlighted yesterday, we will celebrate 10 years of that program. And so that program appears to me to be very sustainable. So we're looking at the numbers, looking at the number of people engaged, it appears to us that it is part of the engine. It's part of the engine of growth for our economy, and we are very happy for this. It plays a remarkable role in ensuring that there's social equity across the board in rural communities, etc. Mr. Speaker, the impact of the NEP has helped with alleviation of poverty and really, Mr. Speaker, provide decent work to people across the board. In the last financial year, Mr. Speaker, we have more than 640 new interns who were granted on-the-job training opportunities, and so they have acquired new skills at their workplace. There were 60 individuals who graduated from the program, and we have more than 40 interns who were certified on the SKY project with education. We have 30 interns who received certificates in basic geriatric care. And so, Mr. Speaker, over 50% of the interns have been facilitated through credit unions and banks to ensure that they are able to access monies to develop their own self. Mr. Speaker, the Carnago Territory and Salabia has benefited also from this. We have more than 256 people within this space who are in various components, of the NEP. So, Mr. Speaker, the NEP, or some call it NEP, the NEP continues to contribute to Dominica's overall resilience and the overall health and well-being of our citizens is important. So, Mr. Speaker, during the recent fear of tropical storm Brett, we were able to use the NEP as a serious brigade to go out in the communities. So we cleaned and cleared storm drains, all of the gutters and the culverts, the cutting of the overhangs, the clearing of the riversides, clean and upkeep of the yards of elderly folks and vulnerable people. And so we have been able to add some value and have a social responsibility, Mr. Speaker. So it appears to me that the NEP works. The NEP works. And so, and even, Mr. Speaker, in the last 12 months, we have seen how beautiful the country continues to be, with trees and flowers all around the country. So, and there are many benefits from this. And the social intervention for the NEP has environment and health benefits, because we are reducing carbon dioxide, we are preventing storm runoffs, and we are also benefiting from the locally grown fruits that we can all access when we drive along the roads through the various communities. And also, Mr. Speaker, it's helping to protect and really build up our environment. So this is serious work. We cannot take it for granted. It's not a joke. It's not a papi show thing. It's not a joke. It's a serious business we're doing. Mr. Speaker, this program is a comprehensive one, because most people think that when we think of NEP, we think of clean and cutting. Well, we have people in various departments across the country. We have people in the private sector, and sometimes this private sector people don't even honor that and give credit to it. We have folks who are supporting the school system as mentors, as cleaners, as cooks, as security officers. A component of the NEP is actually taking care of the elderly folks. And across the board, we've been able to do that. So it's not a wishy-washy project. It's a comprehensive program that I believe, Mr. Speaker, will continue to help the Dominica landscape to become more resilient. So, Mr. Speaker, in the last year, we made a major investment of over $46.3 million in the NEP. In excess of $9 million was contributed towards building the strong foundation for the private sector. So the private sector have gotten $9 million of that chunk. So, Mr. Speaker, I will argue that the NEP will continue to do the country well. And I really want to thank all of the supervisors, the coordinators, Mrs. Honoré and her team at the NEP, even in the Salibia space, Deborah Phillip and her crew. All those people who are hardworking people who come out there and give a hard day's work for the pay that they get. And actually, we have increased the reimbursement, and so we've been able to create better opportunities for them within the space. Mr. Speaker, I'm also charged with overseeing the works at the Solid Waste Corporation, and that again is a massive enterprise. We believe at the corporation that we can raise some monies also, because we are looking at making the corporation more sustainable, and people around this room here, not paying any fees for collection. Yet some of us complain. Some people, if you do, it's a little something. The commercial enterprises across the country are not paying any fees, so we have to consider all of those, because it's a big operation to keep this country clean. We have to maintain our trucks, we have to pay our staff, we have to ensure that the landfill is maintained, and so it's a massive thing. I really want to thank the management there. It's tough work. Mr. Speaker, within the new cycle, we will have 3 major projects targeted within the budget. We will do the Enhanced Natural Environment Project. We will continue to do community waste storage improvement, and we do have a pilot project supported by the OECS called the Kalinago Zero Waste Project. So the corporation is mandated to take care of solid waste management in the state. And there's some things that are ascribed to us that are not really our jobs, really. But we do it because we think it's important. For example, the derelict vehicles. It's an eyesore. We think that vehicle owners should take some responsibility. Yet it becomes the responsibility of solid waste. And actually it sits with environmental health. The white goods collection should be one that is responsible ability of the homeowners and the business places, but yet we take it on, and it's a major cost to us. And so we have to look at inputting some system within a utility or some form of payment for those services. So we recognize that the staff of the corporation have been doing this hard work, and we really applaud them for the work. Mr. Speaker, there will be some measures we will look at. We'll look at polluters pay by principle. So what the amount you produce, you should pay. We should consider that. We should also have tighten up on our recycling and packaging legislation. It is very important because we need to separate garbage from source. We have to have waste management regulations tightened. We also look at hazardous waste because we have small mechanics operating close to water areas, etc. We have to revise our litter legislation because there's a big difference between litter and solid waste. There's a difference. So as we mix up those two, and so we realize that in the corporation that waste is actually a resource. And when I travel to conferences, I say I'm the minister of rubbish, which is and the rubbish is a resource because we can do waste to energy. We can recycle glass bottles, like what's happened with Benjo Simos. We could do the recycling of plastics, which are now presently being baled at the corporation site, and we can export all of that. We can compress the raw iron and metal material, and this can be recycled. So all of this we're going to push. At COP27 in Glasgow a couple days ago, I signed an agreement with the Switzerland government seeking to advance Dominica's agenda as articulated in the INDC. That is to reduce the GHG emissions by 70% by 2030. Since then, we have been having discussions with Click Foundation as to how we can provide alternative at the landfill. And so we really want to look at waste to energy as a small piece, though, to add to the geothermal. So we'll really be sustainable and energy sufficient. We'll have solar. We will have geothermal, which is the kicker here, the bigger boy in the room, and we have the waste to energy, and of course we have a hydro as part of it. So all of that is important, Mr. Speaker. Members, through you, Mr. Speaker, we've been expending a lot of money in our projects across the country. We have been delivering residential bins across the country. So we have delivered over 1,500 bins. And each bin is about $220. So it means that we have spent in the last year over $350,000 bins to residential areas. We have moved more than 172 derelict vehicles. And doing the calculation, the truck, the fuel, the drivers, so we have spent more than $90,000 moving derelict vehicles across the country. Bulky waste and white goods, we have made 150 trips to the landfill, 150 trips from over 30 communities across the country. and we're talking about more than $115,000. We've been doing litter management. The corporation for Sonia Felix, I want to hail her up today, and her team has improved litter management and overall cleanliness in the city of Roseau. I really commend her for that. And I don't think we can ignore the work that those folks are doing to ensure that the city is clean. Mr. Speaker, we've also been doing residential waste collection through, like we said during the campaign, through thunder, rain, storm, shine. We've been cleaning up the country. And this, my friends, has been, Mr. Speaker, has been no cost to the residents of our country. So we've been doing our work. The government itself has made some investments apart from the subvention every year. We have procured a new excavator at the cost of $500,000 for the corporation, and we have also spent more than $250,000 to buy a new tipper truck to ensure that so we can deal with the bio waste from across the country. So we ourselves have been making some intervention. Mr. Speaker, in this budget here, we're going to push ahead. We're going to improve our recycling system through the OECS project. We're going to do our waste to energy. We're going to actually develop a waste to energy facility. We will look at sustainable financing, so we're going to explore and introduce the pay for principal idea, included maybe in our utility bills. We're also looking at litter reduction. We have installed more than 25 bins. These are the free section bins in Roseau, for instance, and also in Portsmouth and on tourism sites. Mr. Speaker, education is important, and so we'll spend some monies to educate the public on various best practices within that sector.
15 more minutes.
So, Mr. Speaker, and so there are many, many reasons, as I sort of wrap up, there are many, many reasons why our Labour Party government, with our PSIP, our social safety net programs, and our softer skills are important. They assist, of course, with economic growth, because we know that a well-developed and skilled person workforce can drive our economy. Mr. Speaker, with all of these skills and knowledge, we can be more productive, and we can contribute more. And really, Mr. Speaker, it boosts our overall development. Our program have also helped poverty reduction over the years, and because equipped with the right skills, constituencies and constituents across the country can get better paying jobs, and some can even start their own businesses. Mr. Speaker, there's a massive number of people engaged on the Dominica Work Online program. And just last week, earlier this month, 92 folks in the Carnago space from Atkinson and Trees also were at a town hall meeting as they attempted to learn about the program. And once successful, more of my constituents will be engaged to make themselves better and support their families. Mr. Speaker, the constituency continues to benefit from the NEP, if the cooks, the mentors, and all of those folks within that space. Mr. Speaker, all of those Labour Party programs, and it has to be that, it's not just the government program, it's a Labour Party program. They really create social stability. And that's important. We sort of browse over it quickly sometimes, because it is giving people the opportunity for their own personal growth, internal growth. And what it also does, it empowers people, and it makes them feel part of the society. Our programs also have been able to have people adapt to change. We see that very, very clear in the COVID-19. We have to adapt and to move forward and change. Mr. Speaker, apart from the softer parts of development, we have also done a lot of infrastructural work across the country. Within the various constituencies, we've been able to build projects within what we can normally call the marginalized communities, the country. And so we're able to do that. And so my constituency is a prime example. So all of these services that are in Roseau and Portsmouth are within the Carnago space. We continue to have access to education, to healthcare, to the markets. We're able to reduce the the disparities between the constituencies. We have maintained all our schools, all our roads, and so the brand new Senegal School is coming up. I've seen the design. It's going to be Darren, the member for St. Jose, it's going to be a wonderful edifice, I suspect. And so we have done all of those, and these are major investments under the CBI project. We have also built the resilience in disaster in the community against disaster, because we are now designing our homes and infrastructure properly. And in the Canada space, we have been able to benefit from 50 homes from the EU, more than 120 something from the HRP project. The multipurpose center is happening. We're attributing the Atkinson Resource Center.